Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our excellent witnesses today. I'm really enjoying this discussion. As mentioned, public health, including children's health and environmental protection, are at the core of EPA's mission. Now, I've been a vocal supporter and advocate for the mercury and air toxic standards. Finalized in 2012, EPA recognized the significant public health benefits of MATS, mercury and air toxic standards. And then the EPA estimated that MATS would yield up to $90 billion in public health benefits each year. In fact, it has been shown to be life-saving, preventing more than 11,000 premature deaths every year and preventing 130,000 asthma attacks each year. Now, pregnant women and children are especially vulnerable to heavy metal exposure because there are profound impacts on central nervous system development. And during the last administration, we saw numerous attempts to attack and undermine MATS. This despite the power industry already having spent billions of dollars to comply and major power sector and labor groups requesting that the standards just be left in place. So I am grateful that President Biden recognizes the importance of MATS, and his executive order from earlier this year will lead to an immediate review of the prior administration's actions regarding MATS, because protecting developing brains should not be a partisan issue. Now, Administrator Browner, as you note in your testimony, the Trump administration did take a number of actions that weakened public health protections, including MATS. Could you just briefly describe what happened to the mercury and air toxic standards during the last administration?
Well, I think you said it. They were weakened, and unnecessarily so. One, because they were based on good science, they were based on the law, they had been subject to public review, and industry had embraced them in many instances. So it sort of, there were several of these rollbacks of the Trump administration that were just befuddling because you had industry support for them. You had industry saying, look, these regulations are giving us certainty and predictability, and we're making the investments to meet the standards. Why are you changing them on us? And we do need certainty and predictability in our regulatory schemes.
Similar to what we saw in the automobile industry. So just really quickly, before I get into my next question, given where we are today, what steps can the EPA take to protect the vulnerable populations, including children?
From mercury?
From mercury, lead, other pollution.
So they have the authority. They'll need to go through the notice and comment rulemaking, which is a transparent process. They'll have to, dot all their I's, cross all their T's. It will take time, and that is unfortunate that we have lost time. And mercury is a neurotoxin. I mean, this is simple. This is about our children's brains.
That's right. And you're talking to a pediatrician. Okay, I have another question for you. I'm keeping you on the spot today, Administrator Browner. This is a question about a new issue that is really important in Washington State. Last year, scientists finally determined that the chemical 6-PPD, which is added nearly universally to tires as a preservative, was the cause of these mass die-offs of salmon. What we found was that during big storms, runoff in urban areas would just decimate an entire coho population migrating through urban areas. And so my question is, what role do you see the EPA playing in addressing this issue? How would you work with public industry, and what could we do maybe to develop safe alternatives, and how could we help?
So obviously EPA may have some authority on safe alternatives, but more importantly, perhaps in the near term, is EPA under the Clean Water Act gives states money for stormwater. And so designing stormwater systems that can actually suck that pollutant out before that stormwater enters our rivers, lakes, or streams. There are many, many systems now using natural vegetation, for example. And so I think I would want to look at both paths forward, which is how do I clean up the stormwater so it doesn't affect my salmon? And then how do I look at the materials being used and work in cooperation with the industry to see if you can't find a solution?
It's really, I love your thinking. It's really, really hard because these could be teeny streams that just are, they're everywhere. We have water everywhere in Washington State. So thank you for your attention to that. Last quick question. Could you just comment about the rise of pseudoscience? Because I've had conversations with some of my colleagues, and they say that they are founding their conversations in science, and I'm looking at EPA science, and then EPA was undermined by the last administration. So it's really hard to have a conversation based on facts when there seem to be two set of facts. Could you just comment?
Well, science is a process. It's a really important process. It asks a question, it undertakes an investigation, it brings forward an answer, it peer reviews that answer. And so when we talk about good science, we should be mindful of a process that we're talking about. And what emerges from it then are facts, are scientific findings. What we do with those is a policy discussion. And, we can have a debate about what you want to do about climate change, but the science is very, very clear, right? And so rather than acting like that the science isn't clear when you have 2,500 of the world's leading climate scientists all agreeing and you have 20 years of evidence, let's talk about what we're going to do. And I, for one, think we should do a lot. Others may think less, but let's talk about how we do it in a fair and just manner. Science is a process, and that's what you want to protect is the process.
Thank you. Somebody's time expired.